I recently sailed on one of Royal Caribbean's oldest cruise ships, and it was a good reminder of a few different tips and some new experiences I got to try. Hey everyone, it's Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. Royal Caribbean Serenade of the Seas is not a brand new cruise ship by any stretch of the imagination. These days, you talk about new ships, you're talking about Star of the Seas, Icon of the Seas, Utopia of the Seas, but Serenade is one of Royal Caribbean's oldest and smallest ships out there. It's certainly very different. Doesn't make it bad, makes it different. And I was going on here thinking about how this would really vary for me because I've recently been sailing on ships like Anthem of the Seas and Utopia of the Seas and Icon, and I really was curious about what it would be like to go back to a smaller cruise ship. I was sailing solo on this one, going on Serenade of the Seas for a 5-night Western Caribbean cruise out of Tampa, Florida. Tampa's not one of the more popular cruise ports within Florida in terms of numbers, simply because it can only fit some of the smaller ships in the world in there. So as a result, it gets seasonal ships such as Serenade of the Seas. The good news is Tampa's a very short drive from where I live in the Orlando area, so about an hour or so, easy to get there, so no complaints about that. Anytime I can avoid flying to a cruise, I will gladly take it. For this cruise, I actually only paid $200 for it. You might be thinking, what voodoo did I invoke in order to get such a low price for a cruise? Well, the reality is I actually took advantage of one of the best deals out there, which is the Casino Royale Prime program, which gives you basically a free cruise every year if you hit the Prime level within the Casino Royale customer loyalty status. And we've done a video about the casino program and how that works, and I'll link to it here in this video as well for your reference. But the bottom line is I was able to go on a cruise for only $200. Basically, the cruise fare was free. I just paid for port fees and taxes. Of course, I had to gamble enough money, and I lost money in the process of gambling to earn this quote-unquote free cruise, but for what it's worth, I only paid $200 to go on this particular sailing. Now, as I mentioned, I drove to Tampa and I parked there, and this is the first lesson that I learned, is that parking at Tampa is a lot more contentious than I remember. I've taken plenty of cruises out of Tampa, but I've never pre-parked or pre-booked anything for that parking. I've simply showed up, parked my car, and been on my way. This time, though, when I went to go park my car through the valet program, which, by the way, is the only port that I'm aware of that offers valet service in which you can drive straight up to the cruise ship, give them your keys, and they'll park the car for you, which is absolutely amazing and absolutely worth it. But this is the first time I went there, and they actually told me they were sold out. Now, luckily, before I could even utter a counter argument, the gentleman who parked my car went over, talked to his manager, came back, and said, yeah, you know what, we're sold out, but we can fit you, which obviously meant I was going to tip the guy right up there front, no problem at all. But when I go on my next cruise out of Tampa, which I already have one booked, I will definitely be pre-booking the parking there just in case. The second lesson from sailing on Serenade of the Seas is not all the cabins got upgrades from the World Cruise. So you might remember Serenade of the Seas as being the cruise ship that Royal Caribbean had for its very first World Cruise, a 274-night, 7-continent journey, absolutely amazing. And because people were living on a cruise ship for like almost a year, Royal Caribbean upgraded a number of its cabins. And by upgrades, what I really mean is they added USB plug and power outlets to the cabin. And I was excited to go on an old ship that had more power outlets on them because typically old ships don't have that many outlets. Unfortunately, my cabin wasn't one of them. And in talking with other people on the sailing, it's clear that not every cabin got those upgrades there. Now, one change Royal Caribbean did make to my cabin was they added a nightlight feature to it, which took me by surprise the first night I was in there. But being in an inside cabin, which is just a small little room with no natural light, one of the big problems is, well, of course, there's no light unless you turn a light on. And in the middle of the night, if you have to go to the bathroom, this can be problematic. The good news is there's actually an automatic nightlight in the ceiling that would turn on if I were to move around the cabin within range of the motion sensor. My cabin measured 160 square feet, and for me, it was more than enough space. But as you start having more people, especially maybe if my wife was with me on this particular cruise, then there would have been a lot more shuffling around. And I don't mind staying in an inside cabin, but after a few days, I really started missing having natural light or being able to glance outside and see if it's sunny, rainy, dark, hot, or cold. I'm not the type of person that needs sunlight to feel good, but it really gives me perspective on what it's like outside and have we docked yet? And most importantly, is it 3 p.m. or 3 a.m.? I found that very jarring that when my alarm would go off in the morning and it was still pitch black out, my brain was like, wait a minute, did I set the right alarm? It's my biggest gripe with this cabin. It's not that I won't book an inside cabin again by any means, but it's something that stood out. And I think next time I'll take up one of the best cruise tips I've learned recently about inside cabins, which is to bring a natural light alarm clock to help make the transition a little bit easier. The third lesson from my Serenade of the Seas cruise is that the smoke factor from the casino can be problematic at times. I like to go in the casino and I like to spend my time in there, but even when you're not in the casino, the smoke can be a factor that bleeds into other areas, primarily the pub. Over the years, I've just come to tolerate the smoke factor that's found on Royal Caribbean cruise ships because smoking is allowed in the ship's casinos. Now, most ships have really good ventilation that helps minimize the smoke smell, especially if you're outside of the casino. But here on Serenade, the smoke definitely traveled, and it tended to travel quite a bit over towards the pub because there were common areas that were attached right to the pub and the casino. In fact, many times we'd be sitting in the pub and all of a sudden a waft of smoke would come in there for whatever reason, and it would be definitely noticeable. So if you're sensitive for it, that could be a problem. Ultimately, it led us to spend less time in the pub than maybe on other cruises, but something to think about. Something, though, I absolutely love about Serenade of the Seas is the salarium. And that leads me to my fourth lesson from this ship, and that is if you're sailing on a Radiance class ship like Serenade of the Seas, make sure you spend time in the salarium. The salarium is the adults-only area for guests that are 18 years old or older, and it's a beautiful enclosed space that has the perfect temperature controls. It's got a great bar, window views all around, a fabulous pool, and some great seating. In addition, you're also going to find Park Cafe right nearby, and Park Cafe is where you can find pizza and sandwiches and salads and cookies and even soups, and throughout the day it offers different food. It's also the late night food spot other than Cafe Latitudes. But what I really like about this is not so much the food, although I do like that quite a bit, it's really the vibe, the aesthetics of being in this space. I think it is the ultimate adults-only pool area on a cruise ship, and while other newer ships and bigger ships have arguably more beautiful spaces, I just think the size ratio to pool to amenities here is absolutely perfect, and you really want to prioritize as much time as you can in the solarium because it's a really nice space. The fifth lesson I learned was, as a result of not wanting to spend as much time in the pub as I usually would like to, my favorite spot in the evening was the Schooner bar. Now, I think Royal Caribbean really got the Schooner bar design right on the Radiance class. You'll find a Schooner bar on every single Royal Caribbean cruise ship. It's a staple of any ship that Royal Caribbean has, and it's a nautical themed bar at its heart. But what I love about the Schooner bar on Serenade is the layout of it. It's beautiful. They have a great bar set up, good viewing areas, able to see outside as well, which is pretty hard to find on most other Schooner bars, and it's got a great entertainment factor in the evening. But I really think the seating arrangement, the bar location, and the flow make the Schooner bar truly stand out. If you've only ever cruised on Royal Caribbean's newest cruise ships, like Wonder of the Seas or Oasis of the Seas, or even Odyssey of the Seas, when you see this Schooner bar on Serenade, it's really going to stand out as a, wow, this is a really nice looking bar, and it holds up. Great bar menu, great crew members. Of course, you'll find great crew members all around the ship, but certainly a huge win right here. Another lesson from Serenade was that it really had better port time. So we were going to Cozumel and Costa Maya, Mexico. Now, I am used to spending all day in Cozumel, which we were definitely the case here with Serenade as well. But in Costa Maya, we usually get the short end of the stick. I feel like we usually get in there like early in the morning, have to leave by 2 o'clock, or get in there late and have to leave, by dinner time or so. But here on Serenade, we had a whole day. In fact, we docked about 8:30 a.m. and we were there till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, giving us a full day to enjoy my favorite spot in Costa Maya, which is Maya Chan. I've talked about this quite a bit, but Maya Chan is my favorite thing to do in Costa Maya, Mexico. And it's not through Royal Caribbean. You have to book this on your own through the Maya Chan website, but it's run by American expats. And they designed this perfect beach day experience that is basically what every American wants to have in a all-inclusive beach day experience. Your drinks, your food, all included, great service. I just can't say enough good things about it, and I go here every single time. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, what happens when Perfect Day Mexico opens in 2027? We'll cross the bridge when we get there, but I have a feeling I'll still be going to Maya Chan, at least at some times, because it's that good of an operation, and I would recommend it to adults, families, and groups who are looking for the best beach day experience in Costa Maya. And my last lesson learned was the one place I really avoided, which is the Centrum. And I say this because I just found a lot of the stuff in there a little cringy, I guess. I'm definitely not a huge fan of the in-house entertainment you find usually in the theaters on Royal Caribbean cruise ships. Like game shows and competitions just aren't my thing. I'm not saying you shouldn't like it, because you absolutely can. It's something that I've kind of gravitated away from because I prefer live music, as an example. The Schooner bar piano player, or the pub guitarist, as an example. And during the daytime, they had fabulous piano players and celloists in the Centrum, and that was totally fine. The issue with the Centrum is it gets very crowded. There's like 7 seats you can choose from in total, so they go very, very quickly, and people absolutely camp out there like all day to get those seats. And I just don't find it a very enjoyable experience. So I found myself really avoiding the Centrum, which is too bad because it's a beautiful space and does have some cool things to do there. And its R bar at the bottom of it is a fabulous bar. But I just really think this space just gets too busy, too crowded on a ship that really doesn't have crowding factors at all. And I just found myself spending less and less time here. And by the end of the cruise, I was plain out avoiding it. I wanted to share 2 secrets about Serenade of the Seas that you should know about when you go on board. Number 1, you can go to the helipad at the very front of the ship. Go out to deck 4 and walk all the way forward on the walking deck, and you'll run right into the helipad, which you can go to at any time during the day. It's a great spot, especially for sail away. My goodness, you definitely want to go out there. And on top of that, it's got beautiful views to take in. The other tip I really wanted to share was that the Windjammer actually has outdoor seating, and it's very uncrowded there and has some of the best spots. I love taking my plate of food, going back to the end of the Windjammer, and walking outside in order to enjoy the seating outdoors. It has the best views of the wake, and if the sun is setting, my goodness, it is gorgeous. So there you have it, the important lessons I learned from sailing on Royal Caribbean's Serenade of the Seas. Let me know if you had the same experience as sailing on Serenade, and would you sail on a really small ship like Serenade? While you're down below our video, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. That way, YouTube will let you know we have a brand new video to share. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. We'll talk again real soon.